Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's reshaping our world: the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and the pivotal roles played by the United States and Russia. This isn't just a regional conflict. It's a complex global chess match with historical roots and far-reaching consequences that affect us all, from international security to the global economy. So let's break it down and understand how these two powers are shaping the future. To really grasp what's happening now, we need to look back. The relationship between Russia and Ukraine is deeply intertwined, stretching back centuries. But for our story, the critical point is the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, when Ukraine declared its independence. For many in Russia, this was seen not just as the loss of a territory, but as a deep historical and cultural separation. Fast forward to the 21st century, and we see Ukraine increasingly looking westward, aspiring to join Western institutions like NATO and the European Union. This westward pivot became a major point of contention. From Moscow's perspective, the expansion of NATO, a military alliance originally formed to counter the Soviet Union, right up to its borders, was perceived as a direct security threat. Russia has long viewed Ukraine as part of its sphere of influence, a crucial buffer zone between it and the West. This perspective was made clear in 2008, when President George W. Bush supported Ukraine's bid to join NATO, a move that drew strong condemnation from Russia. The situation escalated dramatically in 2014. Following months of protests known as the Euromaidan Revolution, Ukraine's pro-Russian president was ousted. Russia responded by annexing the Crimean Peninsula, a region with a majority ethnic Russian population and home to a key Russian naval base. Simultaneously, a conflict erupted in Ukraine's eastern Donbas region, with Russian-backed separatists fighting against Ukrainian forces. This marked the beginning of a prolonged, simmering conflict that set the stage for the full-scale developments we see today. Now, let's talk about the United States' role. For decades, U.S. policy has been guided by the principle of supporting sovereign nations' rights to choose their own alliances and destinies. When Ukraine looked to the West, the U.S. and its allies responded with political, economic, and security assistance. The American perspective is rooted in upholding international law, which prohibits the changing of borders by force, and in supporting the expansion of democracy. From Washington's viewpoint, Russia's actions are a clear violation of these principles. The U.S. sees Russia as an aggressor attempting to rebuild an empire and undermine the post-Cold War international order. In response, the United States has led a global coalition to impose unprecedented sanctions on Russia, targeting its financial system, energy exports, and key individuals. The goal is to cripple Russia's ability to fund its military efforts and to pressure Moscow to change course. Alongside sanctions, the U.S. has become the largest provider of military aid to Ukraine. This assistance has been crucial, supplying Ukrainian forces with everything from anti-tank missiles and advanced artillery to intelligence and training. This support is not just about helping Ukraine defend itself. It's also about demonstrating the costs of aggression and deterring similar actions by other countries in the future. It is a strategy of making the conflict unsustainable for Russia, while empowering Ukraine to negotiate from a position of strength. So, we have two global powers with fundamentally different worldviews, locked in a proxy struggle over the future of Ukraine. Russia is fighting to reassert its influence and secure what it sees as its vital security interests. The United States is leading the West in an effort to defend a sovereign nation and uphold the international rules-based order. These opposing goals are what make a resolution so difficult. The consequences of this confrontation are massive and global. One of the most immediate impacts has been on the world economy. The disruption of energy supplies from Russia and grain exports from Ukraine has led to price spikes worldwide, fueling inflation and raising concerns about food security, particularly in developing nations. We're seeing a major realignment of global energy markets as Europe scrambles to reduce its dependence on Russian gas. This crisis has also reshaped the geopolitical landscape. It has revitalized NATO, which many had seen as losing its purpose. Finland and Sweden, two countries with long histories of neutrality, have now joined the alliance, fundamentally changing the security map of Northern Europe. The conflict has strengthened the transatlantic alliance between the US and Europe, forcing them into closer cooperation on security and economic policy. At the same time, the conflict has exposed and deepened global divisions. While Western nations have largely united in their condemnation of Russia, many countries in the global South have taken a more neutral stance. They are wary of getting caught in a great power competition and are more focused on the economic fallout. This has led to a complex diplomatic landscape where countries like China, India, and Brazil are navigating their relationships with both Russia and the West. So, what does the future hold? That's the billion-dollar question. There are several potential paths forward, none of them easy. A complete military victory for either side seems unlikely at this point. The conflict could settle into a prolonged war of attrition, devastating Ukraine and draining Russian resources for years to come. Another possibility is a frozen conflict, where active fighting ceases, but a formal peace treaty remains out of reach, leaving Ukraine divided and in a state of perpetual instability, similar to the situation in the Donbass after 2014. This would create a lingering source of tension in Europe. The most hopeful, yet perhaps most difficult outcome is a negotiated settlement. This would require immense diplomatic effort and painful compromises from all sides. Key questions would need to be answered. What would Ukraine's security guarantees look like? What would be the status of the territories currently occupied by Russia? And how can any agreement be structured to ensure a lasting peace, rather than just a temporary ceasefire? The roles of both the US and Russia would be absolutely critical in brokering and guaranteeing any such deal. Ultimately, the crisis in Ukraine is a defining moment of our time. It's a tragic human story, a test of international law, and a high-stakes geopolitical contest between the United States and Russia. The decisions made in Washington, Moscow, and Kyiv in the coming months and years will not only determine the fate of Ukraine, but will also shape the future of global security, economic stability, and the very nature of the international order for decades to come. It's a complex and evolving situation, and it's more important than ever to stay informed. Thank you so much for watching and for taking the time to understand this critical issue. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the events shaping our world. We'll see you in the next video.